Hello and welcome to Healing Point. My name is Pamzi Jamal. Today's edition promises to be very exciting. We are having a spotlight on someone very important, someone that has touched so many lives with his teachings. I give him the opportunity now to introduce himself.
I am Monsignor David Ajang, and I'm the Bishop-elect of the Catholic Diocese of Lafia. Before then, I have been a priest of the Archdiocese of Jos. Thank you. Good day, viewer.
I did that intentionally because I know he's going to exhibit one of his virtues of humility, and he didn't mention some of his positions. And let me help you with that. He was the chaplain, Government House, Plateau State Government House, and at the same time, he has handled so many positions, like the Priest Council. He is the chairman Priest Council of Nigeria,
Yes.
and before then, he was that of Plateau State, just Archdiocese. You're welcome to Healing Point, Monsignor.
Thank you very much.
Okay, before we go further, let's start with the basics. Like when were you born and where?
My dad was in the army, and like being a military man or belonging to a military family, you move from location to location. So I, alongside four of my other siblings, were all born in Zaria. So I was born in Zaria. And I was born in Zaria in the year 1970, the 31st day of March, to be precise. So that was where I was born. And thereafter, we moved to Port Harcourt. Then we moved to Yola before we finally settled down in Jos. And we came to Jos in the year 1975. So since 75 that we returned here, this has been our base, except that with education, you move out, but you return to base always.
Okay, talking about education, so where did you begin and how?
I began my primary education at Army Children's School in Rukuba Barrack, but I couldn't finish there. Like I said, the life of the military entails traveling a lot. So at some point, my dad was on transfer, and that transfer came just about 2 years to his retirement. So they decided that it wasn't a good idea for me to move with him, because if I moved with him, I would be required to begin school, and being that it was going to be away from home, the family thought it was safe for me to school back at home, so I had to remain behind. So I moved from Army Children's School in Rukuba Barrack, then I ended up at St. Michael's Roman Catholic Mission School, RCM School in Nasarawa, where I spent a year. After that, I gained admission into St. Dombiani Seminary in Barrack in Ladi, where I spent 5 years, graduating in 1987. And after graduation, I pursued my vocation to the priesthood, which saw me at St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary in Makurdi, where I specialized in philosophy, where I studied philosophy, and then eventually ended up in Jos, where I studied theology. And I graduated in 1994, and in the same year I was ordained a priest, and I've been a priest ever since.
That's very interesting. What has informed your decision of the priesthood? Because many are called, but few are chosen.
You see, if you had asked me this question many years ago, I would have been without an answer. But with the passage of time, I think I was able to fix pieces together, and I came up with what I think the story of my vocation is. As a young boy growing, I had a teacher, a Sunday school teacher, who was very graphic in presentation. And the way this teacher painted the picture of hell, it was so terrible that I think at that stage in my life, the one thing I wanted to do was to avoid hell, to do anything possible to stay away from hell. And when the thought of being a priest came up, and the way I conceived of the idea as a young boy, I just said to myself, that is the way to stay away from hell. And then ever since then, I pursued the priestly vocation. That was the thinking of a child, the way God called me. But now that I'm older, I know better. I know that even as a priest, if you don't live up to the challenges, you don't live up to the requirements of the vocation, that still does not guarantee you freedom from hell. You need to do the right thing even after being a priest.
okay, for younger viewers listening,
Yes.
you have you had that, you nurtured that vocation from secondary school, from primary school, and nothing has distracted you since then, because there are so many distractions nowadays, and you had that intention from that level up to you achieving it. What really kept you?
I think I had a supportive family. My family has always been supportive. It wasn't their idea, any of them, both of my parents, neither was it that of any of my siblings, for me to be a priest. It was my idea. And when I shared the idea with them, I got all the encouragement I needed. My dad, for one, was one who wouldn't force any idea on a child, but if you brought yours, he gave you all the support you needed. And I would say, because of the support group I had around me, I had a group of friends who supported me, I had family that supported me, and I had an entire community. Growing up at St. Michael's, Nasarawa, it was one supportive community. I became like a parish project. Everybody looked at this young boy who was aspiring to be a priest, and I was treated differently, and that helped me to keep me on my toes. And then always reminding me of what I was pursuing. Now, if I talk about the younger people of this age, I know that theirs is an entirely different society. And I always say that I feel for younger people today, because the challenges they have, we did not have. I know that the phone has come with a lot of benefits, but it's one big distraction too. And the phone has led people into doing all kinds of things. I think that sometimes we exaggerate the maturity of the human person to use the phone well. I cannot, in all sincerity, say I have always used the phone well. I know that before I had a phone, I spent more time studying than now. Because now, even the calls, you have to respond to calls, otherwise people get angry. Now you have to do a lot of things, and not talk about the resources you need to manage the phone. And then when you talk about the community, in those days the community assisted. Like I said, I was like a project of the entire community. But today, that the individualism has caught up with us, such that the community does not support the child anymore. And then not to talk about the ready availability of substances. As a young person, most of the substances that we have around today were just not there. So, and since they were not available, even if you wanted it, you could not access them. But today, all you need to do is to go down the street and you have somebody selling it. And then, so all of those bring a lot of challenges to the young people growing up. And all I say to them is they can still be positive. There are people who are just very focused. But for you to help them be focused, I think the family has a big role to play. And where the family assists the person by keeping him on the right track, it will help a great deal.
Okay, thank you very much. You are 26 years as a priest.
Yes, sir.
And you've led so many congregations, you've handled positions, and I know you have your highs and lows. What are the experiences like? What can you share with us?
Being a priest for me has been quite a huge privilege. A huge privilege in the sense that it has made the doors to be opened for me. It has given me access into homes that ordinarily I wouldn't have been accepted. And it has given me access even into hearts of people who are hurting. So I think the highs would be the ability to experience people as they really are. So sometimes there is something about human nature. Everybody moves around with a facade. We say packaging, and then everybody looks round and complete, but we are all broken. And you meet people, and when you see them, you think this guy is a perfect guy. I wish I was like him. But when you sit down to talk to people and they really take you into confidence and they open up to you, then you discover that we all as human beings are hurting. So I think the high points will be the ability to assist people to have a different perspective on the same reality. For example, somebody meets you and is very troubled, and all you do is just a word or sometimes a biblical verse, and then you assist the person, and then the person comes back to you and says, "Thank you. You helped save my life," or you gave me the motivation I needed when I was at the lowest point in my life. So all of those are highs for me. And when you walk with the common people, the church tries to create a level playing ground for everybody, the rich and the poor. I know that sometimes some people will not believe that, but again, as a minister, you learn a lot from the poor. They don't have the resources to give, but they have the time, and they have the gift of presence. And sometimes watch them come to church every day, watch them in their nothingness give of their time and sometimes of their little resources, even when they have nothing back at home to eat. For example, when you visit them in their homes, that is when you really experience people as they are, and then they are very different from those you meet on the streets who are packaged, and then you see their living condition, and yet they are truly happy. And sometimes the only thing that gives them that happiness is the faith which they have. And where you help them manage that faith well, you see you hold the added value to the lives of people. So those are the highs in my ministry in this past 26 years, meeting people as they are and helping give them hope, no matter how little that hope is.
Okay, earlier you mentioned that philosophy is your area of specialization.
Yes.
What has informed this decision, and how are you going about it?
You see, I don't know whether it was an inspiration by the Holy Spirit or it was certain qualities that the authorities saw in me. But the choice of philosophy, even though it was a choice I had hidden in my mind, I was surprised when the bishop called me in the year 2001 when we applied for the scholarship, and he said he wanted me to study philosophy. If you understand how the Catholic Church works, you don't plan a career for yourself. You don't plan an area of specialization for yourself. You could be consulted, but your input does not necessarily determine what the outcome will be. It depends on the need of the church at that time. That is what will determine the decision. So I was pleasantly surprised when I was asked to study philosophy. I don't know whether at any stage they gave us a document to fill and I indicated my interest in philosophy, but I was asked to study philosophy, so which I did. And then when I went there, being that it is something that I've always loved, I gave it my best shot. Though I know that I studied in Italy, for example, and you had to study in Italian. Imagine studying philosophy in Italian. So, and then that was quite complicated for me. But being that it was something I loved, if you love something, you will find a way to make it a part of you. So that was what I did, and I've never had any regrets at all.
As you can see it. You are the first Catholic priest from the Iziri ethnic nationality,
Yes.
and now a bishop.
Yes.
Do you feel any burden as you have a new responsibility now as a new bishop of Lafia?
Unfortunately, when you happen to be a pioneer in any area, it comes with so much burden. I know that my appointment was greeted by so much jubilation among the Afizere people, and the joy cut across denominations and even religion. The Muslims and everybody was happy. And then I'm sure that most of them do not even know much what the responsibilities of the bishop, what the responsibilities are and the requirements of the office. But just hearing that an Afizere man has become a bishop was enough for them, and I know that with that they are happy. I think it comes with some burden, and the burden will be that of our expectations, as is to be expected. you know. And then, and my fear now is I hope that it is properly understood within context, you know. As far as you get an office, then people make all kinds of expectations. Already, people I do not know have sent me messages. Most of them are congratulatory, don't know all of them. I have had requests for money, requests for hospital bill, requests for wheelchair, requests for political appointments, you know. And these are not all things a bishop can do. But I am sure that no matter how hard you tried to explain to them, they would not understand. But it becomes my responsibility to make it very clear to them what the bishop is and that it does not include all of those. Of course, he will assist, he will add value to life, but it does not come with what their expectations are. So the expectations are there, but I will try to be very realistic. That is one thing I try to do. I don't lie about things, you know. I don't make you feel happy when I know I won't do something. When I can't do it, I make it very clear to you that this does not include an area of competence of mine, so I cannot go there. And unfortunately, that leaves some people very sad, but I think it's the truth, and that is what we said before.
Okay, I just hope people will understand you.
I hope so.
Lafia Diocese is not new to you, and it's a diocese that is barely 20 years now.
Yes.
And your predecessor, Archbishop Matthew Audu, has done quite a lot there. But the faith is not like that of Plateau State. So what vision do you have for Lafia, and what are those strategies that will make you achieve that goal?
Well, like I explained to the priests the day we had a meeting with them, the job description of the bishop is very clear. It's primarily about evangelization. And I think the only difference will be your style in achieving that. You know, Matthew Ishaya Audu is Matthew Ishaya Audu. David Ajang is David Ajang. And then considering the fact that based on DNA, no two people are the same, everybody is different, it means that we have our unique ways of doing things. So he has done his best as far as evangelization is concerned. And to his credit, he did a lot. He's a pioneer bishop. You know, beginning is not as simple as taking over. When you take over a place with all the structures in place, as is the case of Lafia, then it is much easier. But when you are beginning a place without structures, and then you have to set up everything. For example, even in the case of Lafia, there was insufficient manpower, and there was insufficient indigenous priests who understand the people, could speak to the people in the language they understand. And then it was an area that was vastly unevangelized at that time. But he took over, and then when you go there today, 20 years after he has been there, you will see that a lot has been achieved. I will do the same, that of evangelization, but I will do it my way. You know, and my way will include doing the same things he has always done in a different way. And we will sit down together with the priests, the religious, and the laity, and have an overview of where we are 20 years after the creation. And then we'll try to pave a path for ourselves on the way forward. What are the areas we need to concentrate on? So at this stage, I have my ideas, but I will need to revalidate them when I go there. And the best way to revalidate them will be to convene a meeting of the different groups, the priests, the religious, and the laity. And I will talk to the young people too. I will meet with the youth, I will meet with the women, and I will hear from them. I will hear from them their realistic expectations of what they think we can do as a church. So it is only after I have come together with all of these groups that I will now revalidate all the ideas I have. And when I revalidate the ideas, then we shall see how we will implement our own vision of evangelization. It is primarily evangelization. Whether it is in the sector, educational sector, it is evangelization. That was used by the missionaries, and we see that that has proved to be one of the most effective tools of evangelization, education. Because when you educate them and then they get to understand more about the faith, then it goes a long way in helping them. Or whether it is in the provision of healthcare, that too will come with evangelization. But all of it will have to be a collective discussion. It has to come out after a collective discussion with the different groups. Then we can really revalidate our own strategy of evangelization and see how to achieve it.
Okay, talking of evangelization, Nigeria is suffering from a moral decay, and Lafia is not out of it. So what are you doing to ensure that this, you earlier talked about the family and order, so what are you doing to ensure that this thing is being reduced, that there's high level of morality in the society?
You see, there is a little the church can do. I've had people who shift the blame for the moral decadence in the society to the church. She sees the church as responsible. The church will share in the blame, I know, but the church cannot be seen as solely responsible. And the reason is because the family is the first school. It's really the first school. And the basics are already implanted in the person before the person is now introduced to the society. And that is why today they talk about early childhood education. And I think educationists place so much emphasis on that, because what will determine the future of the child would have been implanted in the child before he gets to 4 years old. So the later part of his life will just be exhibiting the same things that were implanted there by the parents. So what that means is that if a child was already not properly brought up, there is very little the church can do, or even the school. So I think, but there are different components, and all we will try to do as a church will be to try to let people see the need for them to also see themselves as key actors in the moral education of their children. Today you have, when children are playing at home, go to the church, go to the church, go to the church. Now they don't even supervise whether such children end up in the church. And when they come to the church, what do? Sometimes they just want the children to be away. And when they are away, in the name of the church, nobody is bothered whether the child really got to the church or not. And the same things that you want the child to go and learn in the church, the child can learn at home under your supervision. So what that means is that you get yourself properly informed or properly educated about the faith, then after which you can now pass it on to your children. So we will try our best, but I think the other aspects, the other components must be there. For example, one of the biggest challenges I have today is that there has to be a legislation on procreation. People must be educated on the need to have children they can care for. We have population explosion, but that is helping nobody. I know there is the aspect of the numbers for election, so there is the political angle to all of that. But see what we have cost ourselves. In some states, for over 6 years, no one has been employed. People have been replaced, but no employment. But to the federal level, it's the same thing. Today, there is so much talk about entrepreneurship, but even the climate, the business climate is not favorable. A lot of people who have tried petty trading online, you end up with debtors. People who do not have cash to pay. They receive your good, and they promise to pay when they have salary. And before you know, your capital is gone.
Okay, it's interesting to know that your area of specialization is philosophy. So you've drank from the wisdom of philosophers, and now you are a leader in Lafia. What would be your advice to government to ensure that these challenges are being mitigated?
The basic challenge, the basic advice I will have to government will be to concentrate on education. To the credit of the governor of Nasarawa State, I was privileged when I went visiting for the first time. I met him, and he seemed to have a very clear vision, especially when it comes to the insecurity. And to his credit, you could say that Nasarawa State has truly been very stable. There are cases of insecurity scattered here and there, but largely you will say that it has been a secure state, and that is to his credit. From the way he spoke, it showed that it is not happening by accident, because there is a deliberate effort by the government to ensure that people's lives are saved there. So we give him that credit. But you see, if you talk about the proximity of the state to Abuja, there's a spillover of population from Abuja to the state. And actually, they have become like the state. Most people who work in Abuja stay in the central state. I think that there has to be a deliberate effort to ensure that people get educated, people get
That's a very nice way to end it. But before we go, let's have your, for the want of time, let's have your final talks. Just 30 seconds.
Well, my final thought would be that I know the challenge ahead is quite enormous. That I believe that God does not entrust responsibilities that He but when He gives you that, I trust Him to give me everything. And I ask that He also so that as I go to this last stage, I will know what He is.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for staying with us. We have been discussing this He's the bishop in this event. It has been a wonderful and interesting conversation. Thank you for staying with us on Healing Points. And until we come your way next week,